All right, so what we're talking about is Hollywood keeps destroying the male hero. And this is from Snarky Jay. She has a lot of subscribers, a lot of likes on this one. I caught some of it, and we're going to gloss through it a little bit and get her points. I think I kind of know where parts are that I wanted to talk about. But basically, she's saying people don't have the balls right now to write manly men's men. And she puts it down in the description. After years of iconic heroes, it feels like every legendary male character these days eventually ends up broken, defeated, humiliated, or turned into a joke. Or, all of those compared. From Luke Skywalker to Han Solo to Indiana Jones, Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Lightning McQueen, no really, and beyond, modern Hollywood seems strangely unwilling to let male heroes be heroic. But why? Let's talk about the annihilation of the male hero. We're not going to talk about cars. I hate cars. And I'm not going to talk about being a man's man in a car movie.
Well, for me, a woman does the hard work for him. Din Djarin reduced to babysitting. Thor turned into a screaming punchline. Lightning McQueen being mocked for aging. And most recent of all, Sheriff Woody being taken down with a bald spot.
Woody, I seen this part she say that, and Woody gets made fun of through all the movies. I don't see. I get it. He's aging, and that's what she's saying. Like, a lot of these things are like making fun of like them aging and a lot of legacy character stuff, I guess. But Woody's always been made fun of. I don't get it. They've always knocked him. Everyone kind of always picked on him here and there. Yeah, that was a weird reach right
Joke.
there.
Wow, none of that looked cool at all. Yeah, that's because they're not anymore. So what happened to our male heroes? Notice I went from Marvel to Star Wars to even like kids media. I mean, seriously.
And I think her issue with Mandalorian is that he takes care of Grogu now. That's what she was saying. He used to be a badass, but he takes care of Grogu now, and he's basically a nanny now, which I don't think was the point of the story, but I get it. She might have been happy with Mandalorian Grogu movie.
When was the last time Hollywood let a man be cool without finding some reason to humiliate him for it after? We're gonna have to get to the bottom of this together, okay? But first and foremost, from The Lord of the Rings, I got that video coming soon, you guys already know. How about in Gladiator?
So these
Maximus
guys don't get humiliated.
Meridius, okay? That's a f***ing legend.
think that's the key.
Tony Stark, even, in the Marvel Cinematic
Iron Man
Universe.
gets Tony Stark.
None of these characters were perfect. They're not perfect.
Tony Stark gets humiliated. Let's be real. I think that's her biggest argument is guys can't be humiliated and to be a hero, an iconic hero. She's saying they can't be humiliated and turned into a joke. Iron Man, that happens to him a lot in the movies because the people that don't like him will put that on him. But that makes the person look like a bad person. So, it's whatever. But yeah.
Perfect people. But the stories still respected them, and that's the difference. Older movies understood that admiration is not necessarily some sort of endorsement of a character as an icon of perfection. And modern Hollywood, much like they seem to misunderstand a lot of concepts, doesn't get this one at all. And that's because modern Hollywood doesn't really trust your male heroes anymore. Hollywood has an issue with some traits, okay? Masculine.
I definitely don't want to make this me defending Hollywood. So I think Hollywood, of course, as a whole sucks. But I want to be here to give respect to the writers that create these characters and directors that bring them to life and the actors that play these characters, and that they're being told that you're not doing a man heroic type job, I guess. Again, there were some parts where at first I watched some of it and I kind of I was like, okay, I understand some of this, and then the more I watched, the more I kind of drifted away. Yeah, let her talk a little bit longer.
Big one there, okay? They seem to confuse toxic masculinity with regular masculinity. All of it is bad. They don't necessarily like confidence. They don't necessarily like a sense of swagger anymore. They don't like stoicism. They don't like men who are into leadership, because now things need to be.
It's hard coming from a guy that reads comics and watches a lot of comic movies or movies in that type of field. There's a lot of leadership in a lot of these movies. It's hard because she's aiming for these things really solid. Like, she's got all the facts behind it. And I'm thinking just things off the top of my head, and I don't quite get it. I can see maybe some movies having issues with this, and with toxic masculinity, I keep saying that wrong, being toxic and not toxic, it's an easy line to see when, if not the writer or director are stupid and they don't see it, but it's an easy line to see when they're becoming toxic, when they're becoming not toxic. We know what toxic is. It's gross. It's just inappropriate, belittling people, thinking you're better, mansplaining, all that stuff. And some dudes dig that. Some guys think that's the way men should be. I'm different. I don't think the toxicness is great. I think it doesn't show a lot of respect being toxic. That goes for anybody, men, women, child, anyone. But I think she's having issues, feeling like maybe they're too afraid to go too manly because they'll turn to toxic. But I think we've got a good amount of guys out there that, especially a guy that watches superheroes and action movies a lot. Hell, I just did a movie on the top action movies, and a lot of it's in there that's not, it's just dude, you know what I mean?
He softened or deconstructed, sometimes openly mocked, and often apologized for. And again, there is a difference. Some of these traits, to some extents, in some contexts, can be toxic, but that doesn't mean that they always are. But that's the issue here, is that Hollywood lost that sense of nuance, and they eventually became obsessed with the idea of, yeah, but what if your favorite hero sucks? What if he's just the fucking worst? And they just decided to take that and run with it. Sometimes that
I don't really
he
care
was a
for
representation of the hero's journey, the belief in redemption, and this movie basically reframed him as bitter.
But I agree. They made I agree with her on this. Luke Skywalker, old Luke, they made him bitter, they made him broken, they make him humiliated, and defeated, all the things, they turned him into a joke. Yes, I agree. All those, 100%. She has a great argument for that. She
cowardly and just
Indiana
defeated.
Jones?
And Hollywood keeps doing this. To not talk about Han Solo, what if in the third movie he was
talk about cars.
fun of him for being fat and depressed the whole time. So, really reminded me of my high school experience where I also got made fun of for being fat and depressed. But
so they talk about Thor being overweight and getting picked on. I think it deals a lot with mental health, and yeah, I don't think there should be fun made into it, but I think I get the humor they were going for. I think it'd be different if he didn't know the people throwing the jabs at him, but when it's Tony Stark, like your bro, throwing it at you, calling him Lebowski or something like that, makes sense. But let's be real, I didn't lose anything for Thor and think not he wasn't a man's man. I just thought he was a dude. Like she said, she doesn't like broken. He was a broken guy. He went through things that destroyed him. Let alone, let's not even talk about Infinity War. Everything he's been through before that. I have a video I wanted to about Thor alone, but everything before that. I mean, the dude's been through the ringer, and people accepted the fact that he turned into this. We didn't go, oh man, what is this guy doing? Poor guy. No, we were like, yeah, I feel it, dog. I feel it. I don't look at it as like humiliation. There's inside jokes, I think, within the characters, but I don't think outside the movie we're like, did you see how fat Thor was? I don't think we ever went there. If anything, we're like, damn, like she wants swag on characters. She says swag, and it's like Thor always has swag. This is Thor without swag. I'll give you that. He doesn't have swag because a lot happened. He ultimately felt like he didn't save the world. So you might lose a little swag during that. So I don't know. And the Mando
actually had a swagger about him. He was kind of slick. He was interesting. He was like, you know, the coolest man in the world, Dos Equis commercials. That's kind of what he felt like. And in this, he kind of just feels like a soulless nanny. He's just irrelevant. He's a vessel to transport the little green guy. And he.
So when she started to get into that talk about Mando being like a badass at first, and when he got Grogu, I think that was the whole journey we were supposed to go on. I don't think Grogu was just thrown in for no reason. I think that was already part of the plan. So the whole story was he was serious, straight shooter kind of guy and badass. Yeah, correct, 100%. Was he flawed? Yes, he had flaws. We just hadn't learned them yet. I like my characters to have story behind them or development. I just don't want someone to kick down the door and like I'm a badass. I that gives me nothing. And she mentions like men don't have things to look up to or whatever. I don't want a guy that just walks in and kicks ass, and I don't know why. Yeah, I wish I could kick ass like him, but why? Like, that's cool, but when I see other characters, I'm like, yeah, Thor gets up and kicks ass. Like, yeah, that dude went through some shit, and now he's a badass. Yeah, I want it. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do Thor, man. But here, making fun of him having Grogu, it's kind of part of a story. Like, if you thought a dude was a badass in a jean jacket or leather jacket, getting off a bike, and like, dude, that dude's sick. Next time you see him, he's holding his niece, and the niece is like playing with him or something like that. That makes him weak all of a sudden. He's a vessel for the kid. I get she means vessel as in everywhere he goes, he has Grogu. Well, a man that's maybe divorced and has a kid, he has to have his kid with him all the time. Does that make him less masculine? Does it make him humiliated? The kid's gonna do things that humiliate him. There is gonna be times he'll look like a joke when the baby's peeing on him while he's trying to change the diaper. It's part of the whole plan. It's part of life, and this is something that they did with Mandalorian, and they did it to make it more somewhat, I guess, relatable, but also it was part of the character's journey. They wanted him to soften up and not want to have this burden, but then he ends up having a burden. It's almost like people that have kids that weren't ready for it, but then they do, and you just go along with it and you love it and you have it part of your life. And I just don't know what she's reaching for now. At first I kind of was like, okay, I kind of get it, and then she really lost me on what a character should be. I think she talks about Boba Fett.
I know. He only had 3 or 4 lines. One of them was a Wilhelm scream as he fell into the Sarlacc pit. That's not what I'm saying here. But remember, in Jabba's little party hut there's a scene where he's leaning against the wall. Like, that's some slick shit right there. That goes hard. And when he goes to move into the fray to see what's going on, there's women around him. Like, this shit right here. Let me tell you something right now. Boba Fett would have not been going home right there by himself. Sorry to tell you. If I...
But, so that makes... So that's not a hero being destroyed. I mean, he's a villain, but that's not making a hero destroyed. That's what you want to see. So you kind of want a smooth dude. What up, ladies? What up? Walks through him. I mean, kind of ego on him, I guess. I don't know. Badass. I guess some guys might be like, yeah, I want to be like that, but some guys, I don't know. But for this being her pedestal to put a character on, this is an odd one to die on. Even though, yes, he's only been in it for like 4 seconds, and she's saying basically, look at all what he did with this few seconds. He was a pimp. He leaned against the wall. He spun around. He hit people up on their chins. Like, what up, girl? That's what she's looking for in male heroes these days. Unfortunately, it's just kind of not, you look dumb acting that way. It was a portrayal of what maybe people thought would look cool, or maybe it was cool back then. I wasn't alive in the 70s. Or actually I was alive probably during Return of the Jedi. I think it was in the 80s. But I don't think, I mean, do Matthew McConaughey vibe in Days of Future Past, Dazed and Confused, is that, you know, a dude that just picks up girls like, all right, you know, and thinks they're all, you know, his thing, and he props himself up, he looks smooth, he looks slick. Is that ultimately like the guy we're like, oh man, we wish we were him, you know? Like, I guess I've never had that feeling, but I assume maybe someone has. But the fact that that's what we're missing in Hollywood is kind of odd. Like, I don't think we're missing that. There's a lot we're missing in Hollywood, but I really don't think it's that.
I was that alien bitch. I'm out. I'm going with him. So my whole point is that even in a basically wordless character, a guy in a helmet, they were still willing to go, look at this guy, he's slick. They were gonna throw him into a giant anus with teeth 2 minutes later, and yet they were still willing to go, yeah, but look at this guy, he's cool.
They humiliate him and make fun of him. Boba Fett where? And he hits him with the stick, and he's like, ah! He flies and he falls into the pit. So you're saying it's cool that they made him the way you wanted him to, but even though he turned into a little bitch at the end of it, you're still okay because they made him cool in the beginning. So I want to be Boba Fett now because he was cool in the beginning, but then gets bitch slapped into a vagina pit.
Do that anymore. The last time we saw Boba Fett, he was taking his helmet off all over the place and getting his ass kicked by a Wookiee in his underwear. He was in his underwear. The Wookiee was not in his underwear.
What's his name? He was a badass. He's in the comics. I want to say Krasaskan, but it's not. Yeah, Boba Fett, the show wasn't great, but I never looked at it once like, he's not a man's man because he got thrown out of his tub in his underwear. I don't think, as a guy, speaking from my point of view as a guy, that's not things I would talk about why I didn't like the show or things that bother me about the show. There were some things I probably liked, but I'm saying to argue with her. And if we were talking about, oh man, I hated this, yeah, I hated that. I hated when he was in his underwear and he got thrown out the tub. Excuse me? Like, what? Yeah, when he got thrown out of the tub and he was in his underwear, like, that's not Boba Fett. Well, yeah, I get that, but there's a lot of other things that kind of went away from Boba Fett, like, no, but when he got thrown out of the tub, like, it's like they humiliated him. Like, yeah, I get it, but also in their culture, like, removing your mask is supposed. And I couldn't be in that conversation when that's your main gripe of being to the whole argument where we're saying Hollywood is keep destroying all male heroes, and this is her argument towards it. I would just say they're destroying Boba Fett based on other things. Not this would be my reason.
The Wookiee was naked, which is interesting because they was Bruce Wayne analyzing things and doing research. It hit me that they did the same thing with one of my favorites, Bruce Wayne, Affleck's Bruce Wayne, any Bruce Wayne before that. Even though we know Bruce is the mask of sorts for Batman, Bruce is suave, he's rich, he's got the cars we want to drive, the clothes we want to have, he gets the girls, right?
I know where she's going with all this, and I get that at the end of the day it's going to be like, but Bruce is broken, he's weak, and that's what makes Batman Batman. If Batman didn't have all that, if he just was a rich dude with chicks, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be a Batman comic or movie. Sometimes I feel like she didn't watch Batman or read Batman comics and just knew the movies. And I don't want to be that gatekeeper. Like, you didn't read the comics, but it's like, and as far as like picking up the girls and stuff, he wasn't like the Boba Fett, and like, he wasn't John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, walking around, grabbing the girls, dancing with the girl, throwing her out of the way, like, yeah, get out of my way, girl, I'm doing my thing. Bruce never really does that. Bruce is low key most of the time, and the most we got was, most of the movies he has an interest and he usually gets towards the interest, either gets him or doesn't get him. But the only time was like Bale did kind of flaunt women, flaunt his parties. That's one of the movie series that actually really capitalized on Wayne flashing his money. You could say Keaton did, like showing his party, how all the cool stuff he had, but someone that's pushing it in your face was really Bale. I felt like Bale really shoved, like, oh, this place, I'm buying it, like, when they're like getting mad at him for being rude at the table and stuff like that. But again, that's not something, what all that we explained that wasn't part of Batman, really. You don't want to be that guy. Like, that sounds like a dick. That sounds like you want to be like Mr. Beast or like one of these like follower guys. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Mr. Beast there's some good he does in the world. I'm saying a guy that can walk in and just be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna buy all this, you're gonna treat me wrong. And that's not a thing you want to be like. Being that kind of a character isn't a male hero. I thought she was going somewhere with this, but I feel like there's an argument to be had here.
Cream of the crop of Gotham and pretty much anywhere he goes. He's very slick, he's charismatic, he's a playboy, he's a philanthropist, he's not Tony Stark, but he's all of those things. And in 2022's The Batman, we get an awkward Bruce Wayne who is reclusive, he's struggling, he's withdrawn, he's isolated,
Yes.
he's uncomfortable,
Yes.
he's
All these.
awkward. Even his wealth is kind of painted as shameful.
Yeah.
The money
Yeah.
feels like it's dirty money. His entire existence feels like it would be a burden instead of like, oh man, I wish I could be anything, but if I could be Batman, that would be even better. Like, I don't...
Everyone, there's that huge joke, when I wake up in the morning, I want to be who? And everyone goes, I want to be Batman. They're like, you wake up, your parents are dead, and whatever, you have no powers or anything. That's the whole thing. We should strive to want to have Batman's being relentless, the courage and the ability to face things with not knowing what's going to happen next. But you don't want to get everything that comes with being Batman, where yeah, he's broken, dude. He's been through stuff. The Batman's cool. I don't think it's like the greatest movie. I think it's a good movie. And they did a good job. And then she talks about, oh, he's year 2, so I get it. Batman Begins was like year 1. I think that's one of my favorite origin stories, just because they go deeper and show him training with the League and Raws and all that stuff. I really dug that for an origin story that we never saw before. That's why I really dug that. But this one, we didn't really get origin, but we know he's fresh in this. But yeah, he's going through some shit, more so than what happened in Begins. What he was going through, because they all go through stuff. But it is kind of weird when you get money thrown at you out of nowhere when you're old enough to have it, and it's all from your parents that died, and you're kind of gonna be shameful about it. If you're an ass, you're gonna be like, hell yeah, party's over here, Boba Fett, come over here, let's hit some girls' chins. What up, girl? Money. That's okay with some people, but a lot of us don't think that way. A lot of us don't feel like, you know, having all that money for the sake that our parents died and we're still hurting from it maybe isn't the funnest thing in the world. So that doesn't make it a bad thing that Patterson, I believe, is not a male hero. He's being destroyed by Hollywood, is what she's saying.
I don't want to be him. And so with lore, we can explain, well, this is an early Bruce Wayne before he learned to be XYZ. Right. We can explain it away with lore. But why does Hollywood make that choice? F the lore. None of this exists, right? Somebody had to write it. So why in Hollywood did they go, we're going to write an earlier Batman so that we can have this version of Bruce Wayne as opposed to the slick one who gets bitches, gets money, and does his business. Bruce Wayne is a historically person that...
yeah, I don't think anyone... DC's having a hard time right now with people accepting Superman right now. People hate Man of Steel, people hate James Gunn. If you threw a Batman that had all what you wanted to see and all his shit together and just a little bit of issues, I don't think people would want to watch Batman or think that's Batman. That's what makes Batman. I like her look on her face. I think it's weird that you said someone had to decide to write this and they went forward with it when they could have wrote something else better. But you're writing the best aspects of a character. It might not be the best conditions you'd want to live in, but for telling a story, when they wrote Romeo and Juliet, they didn't go like, let's go tell all the good shit where they're humping and shit. Let's do all that. No, they talked about the struggles and the pain and everything, you know, all the way up to the end. With this, Batman is a tragic character. You're going to dig deep and find something that connects with him, with his story. And no matter what Batman you choose to pick, he's gonna have layers. And she said, I think before, I heard her before saying she hates that she has to pull through so many layers and just to get to the character. Sorry, that's fucking Batman. Batman, you have to dig through layers. Other characters, maybe not so much, but Batman for sure, you're gonna have to.
Holds up the main character. We now end up with mentors that are tired and mocked and they're washed up and they're basically irrelevant. And they do this a lot with legacy characters like Luke.
And I think she goes off saying like Obi-Wan was a great mentor and now we do him like this, where they're washed up, old and tired. To be real, Obi-Wan wasn't that great. Obi-Wan had a decent discussion with Luke, made him train with a ball for a little bit, and then he died. He would show up in 2 and 3, Ghost speaking to him, whatever. But ultimately, Obi-Wan is a great mentor in Clone Wars. He's amazing in the Clone Wars. If you want to refer to that, that's great. And I mean the Clone Wars cartoon. Even to the point that Anakin is a good mentor in that as well. So there are representable mentors and not just a shitty job they did on Luke. I understand Mark Hamill himself wasn't happy with all this. And that's why old man Luke is her great point. It's a great point for destroying male heroes. But it's not all heroes. It was Luke Skywalker. I feel like that's what we're getting back to. I don't know who else really we could look at that they destroyed. Like Thor, she brought up. I don't see it with Thor. I don't see that. I see a character arc. I don't see him getting destroyed.
And their morals and all these things equals depth. And I'm not going to say that that's an entirely wrong notion. I think deconstructing certain things really does make them more interesting. But when it's endless and like nothing is ever just, yeah, he's f***ing cool. It feels exhausting, you know, constantly having to dig through a bunch of baggage for a character. Number 2, and this is a big one, I think Hollywood now fears traditional masculinity. I don't think this necessarily comes from a hatred of men overall, but I do think that it comes from Hollywood now having a discomfort with male power. They now have a fear of glorifying masculinity for the risk of getting into toxic masculinity, and I think
when they write toxic versus non-toxic, it's very clear, and the writer or director or actor would have to be dumb, really dumb, to not see the difference of like, wait, isn't this guy a little toxic? Or yeah, he's toxic because he's supposed to be toxic. I think now we just have more social media and people cry about things. I think people cry about, I didn't like this character because he was like this, and they're like, well, what he did that sounds toxic. Yeah, he's toxic then. I just think it's a matter of what one person's opinion is, but on top of it, I don't really think the makers of these movies, the writers, you know, all these brilliant people behind these things are thinking, yeah, this is what a guy should be like, but let's not push him too far because then he's going to become toxic. I think if you ever got an idea in your head of what the guy's going to be like, I mean, he's like that. And if you don't want to be toxic, you know the line. The line is easy to draw. And I don't want it to sound like what she's saying. People are afraid to tell the stories of a man being a man, I guess. Again, watching so many superhero movies, it's really hard to argue that argument, or me to help her on that argument. I'd have to defend myself and say, no, we got some dudes being dudes, you know? And if she wants to talk legacy people, what about Expendables? It seems like that's what she wants. A bunch of old guys that don't get made jokes. I mean, they get jokes about, oh, your old guy can't handle it anymore. But they never die. They always never lose. They're tough. They could get the women they want to get. I guess some do. They're not broken. They're not humiliated, really. They joke with each other, I guess. They're never defeated. We get another movie. It's mindless. And if that's what you want, a man's man, what we used to have, because all those guys that were in those movies were guys that came from those movies, were the man's man, Rambo, you know, type of story. And granted, not saying Rambo's bad, but it's unrealistic, unrealistic view of an action hero, I guess. Like, we get that. You get it. You get that you can't be Spider-Man. You know what I mean? We know we don't get bit by a spider and become Spider-Man. But what you do relate to is the other traits that, again, she says you have to dig deeper, that are deeper on these characters. Rambo has a little bit, you know? He has a little bit in there. But for the most part, it kind of goes away, you know? They drew first blood. But, of course, it's more about shooting people, doing all that kind of stuff. So it seems to me she really wants to see the Expendables go all the way up to number 20 and see all these old legacy characters, actors, keep playing the same guys that never lose, that are tough guys and are not afraid to be machismo and do their own thing. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
I think it's good to not cross that line, but you also can't totally water down some elements of these characters because you're too afraid to go to the extreme. Both extremes are bad. And I think in recent years, a lot of writers have developed anxiety around these traditional archetypes. So writers now feel obligated to constantly undermine or soften these male heroes for the sake of keeping the audience comfortable. I also think irony culture just poisoned everything. Nobody wants to take themselves seriously enough to just write a character who's cool, so they have to just make fun of it somehow, either with a one-liner or by sticking him with a green baby. Okay, I think relatability is good.
I think, oh man, some of this, it's just dumb. Going back to Grogu and stuff, I don't get why that is bothering her so much that she has to keep bringing it up. But far as, like she was saying about how they're afraid to write them in certain ways because of, like, I guess how they'll be judged or something. I don't think that's the case at all. You could go to, for example, Old Man Logan. She dug up stuff from a while ago. I'll dig up stuff from a while ago. She's talking about cars. Old Man Logan, he is broken. He is flawed. He is at his wit's end. He is humiliated at times. He seems not to love anyone. He seems not to care about anyone. He just doesn't give a shit about life anymore. And then we have Laura come along, and Laura is almost a silver lining that he doesn't want to see, but he does see. He finally finds something. Again, this is maybe his Grogu that he ends up opening up to and almost having a daughter. And there is humiliating parts where she's like doing things that he doesn't like, and she's not listening, and they're arguing in the car. You could even laugh at that, being like, oh my God, they're throwing a tantrum at each other, and they're both yelling, and she's yelling in Spanish. But does that make him less capable of things? Does that make him less dangerous? We know he's tired. He's worn out. He's gone through hell. We've seen all the movies and stuff, but this movie kind of stands on its own legs. You don't have to ever watch a Wolverine movie, X-Men, whatever movie ever, to understand Old Man Logan. Because it's not a typical, superhero movie. It's about a man being a man, someone we could idolize and put on a pedestal, like she put Boba Fett on a pedestal. A guy that's broken and hurt so much that he still unwillingly and not wanting to takes on a task that he probably shouldn't take, because it'll add more dread to him and worry, but he does because it's the right thing to do. And he does take on taking care of Laura, and he is going to get her to where she needs to go, and he sacrifices everything to protect her. And his vulnerability doesn't ruin his masculinity. It doesn't touch it. So for you saying that these little things are like Grogu and stuff, like throwing them in there, it depends on how you deliver it. Like, maybe I could look at some things with Mandalorian and go, yeah, I agree. But when Grogu first came, I don't think people were that hated. I think maybe some people thought it got too cute, maybe. I don't know. But a lot of people I know love Grogu, and maybe got tired after a while. That makes sense. But within the first few seasons, I think people love Mandalorian. It did get flack, and when the movie comes out now, or when the movie's out, it wasn't really, people didn't care about it that much. But for everything that, let's say, Old Man Logan, it's not Old Man Logan, I wish it was Old Man Logan. Logan, what he goes through, that weight gave him that heroic arc that made him a man, that made him a man's man, that made him. Hollywood did not kill a hero when they were making Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan showed us, with having flaws, pain, hurt, all this, you can still find humor with a little girl and laugh sometimes. We can laugh at them when they're arguing because they're like father and daughter. We can understand the connection. We can understand the pain. But it doesn't make us think he's less of a man. He's still a male hero in all of our eyes. I don't know anyone that would look at Logan movie and think that's not a male hero. They watered him down. Whoever wrote this was not thinking about men. Just as a man myself, I feel like I just need to defend this a little bit. Maybe more because I like superheroes and I like movies a lot and I see what they do. And I do understand when they do characters wrong, or when they represent a man wrong or a woman wrong. I get it. I totally get it. But the idea of Hollywood is destroying all male heroes, like, it's just asinine to me. It's not happening like that.
Good, and we should feel represented in our media sometimes. But when every character is now just relatable and there's nobody to aspire to, then we're not really climbing anywhere, right? Because they'd like for us to stay exactly where we're at. But again, that's a different video. That's just theory of mine. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling the consequences of this trend, okay? I think people miss their heroes. I think people crave that strength, that confidence, the guidance, the aspiration, the mythic characters that exist in a mythos of their own. They are larger.
She's speaking the Bible to me. I think we still get heroes that we like. From the Supermans to the Batmans, from the Man of Steel, people that like Man of Steel, from the Wolverines to like all these superhero movies, and then to other movies, I went through a whole list of action movies for one of the videos, and there's tons of movies. Fury Road, The Professional, I talk about, Die Hard. She's gonna probably say those are too old or whatever, and that's not what we're doing nowadays. Okay, it's hard. Give me something from a year or two ago, and then I'll try to dissect it. Superman 2025, I think it's fine. Example of a man. He's basically got problems, he has flaws, but ultimately, who would want to be this guy? What else is there? I don't know. There's got to be some other stuff that is recent that they're gonna have flaws, and they're gonna not be a man's man where nothing hurts them. It seems like she wants she mentions legacy characters. How about Dom Toretto? All right, let's go with him. He's been in a million movies. He doesn't die. He's never made as a joke. Never one movie. It's probably in his contract. Never made as a joke. He's never humiliated. Never once. He does have moments of being broken. He does have sadness. It depends on the movie, what they want to throw at you. I'll watch the Fast and the Furious movies. They're dumb brain rot, but I'm not watching it for the story. I'm not watching it for the clarity of a character that I want to be. I'm watching it because explosions, cars, fast, me like this, It's not so much that. So do you prefer us to look up to someone like Dom and put him higher than Mandalorian? He's a fictional character. He doesn't have all these flaws. He has a little bit. He gets deep sometimes. He shows up in 1, I think, and 2 with girls all around him. Or 1. Girls all around him. He's swag. He walks in. Everybody likes him. Shirts off, flexing. All the guys should want to be him, right? He gets all the cars he wants. He gets the ladies. He has tons of money because they make a bunch of cars and they rob people. And he's been around forever. And he's never changed. Shouldn't we all want to be Dom Toretto from Fast and the Furious? Isn't that a man's man by this woman's, this lady? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. Snarky Jay, by her definition, isn't that what we should all strive to be? Is Dom Toretto in Fast and the Furious? Be Vin Diesel. Because he is a man's man. He is a guy that they would write in movies that basically have no flaws. And of course, they do give him a little bit. You have to give someone a little bit, and that's understandable. But for the most part, he's not afraid of anything. He won't stop at anything. He'll fight 10 guys and beat them all up. Marines and soldiers. I remember watching the other day. I was like, what the hell? There's a lot of good things in the movie to watch and be like, what the hell? Jumping from way far, angles aren't breaking. Jumping from one car to another car, landing, cracking the windshield, not getting hurt. There's a lot. There's a lot going on there. And I think that's ultimately what she wants us to have. And that's something fresh. We're already getting the next movie. And if you're telling me Dom Toretto is not going to be the same type of character that doesn't get hurt, doesn't get made fun of, doesn't get humiliated, doesn't get turned into a joke. If you think any of those are going to happen to him in the next Fast and the Furious, I will eat your sock. He's not going to have any of that happen to him. So we're going to get this same regurgitated character. And they're just following along, people that were fans following along to see the action, explosion, cars, blah. Fights, shooting, whatever. But that's what you're saying you want from a male character, because Hollywood's destroying them, right? So you want a guy like Dom Toretto. That's what it kind of seems like. That's where I'm getting at. We all want Fast and the Furious. That's what we want. Fast and the Furious.
They are icons, not just people. And I think that's why characters that are considered cool still blow up when they appear in media that takes them seriously. Look at John Wick. Nobody makes fun of John Wick. He kills people with pencils, all right? He had a f***ing cool Mustang. He kicked ass because of a beagle. That's like ultimate cool guy. Great taste in cars, protects dogs, fights with school supplies. Can't tell you anything better. And he's still flawed and vulnerable in his own Keanu Reeves sort of way. People still love aspirational and cool characters. Hollywood just keeps...
Yeah, John Wick definitely is a guy that people all think is badass and want to be him. But do you want to be him with everything that comes with it? He had to go through the love of his life dying and turn his life away of whatever he was doing. Of course, we get a lot of explanations in the future movies, but he had a life that most of us would never want. Even to trade in to be like, I could be John Wick today, but what if someone told you have to deal with all what he went through? Most likely, I would think a smart person would say no. They would never like to lose their love of their life and watch them slowly die, and you give away everything. You're not that person anymore. And then your wife surprises you with a dog that was meant for you. And of course, we'd all go beat up people for dogs, of course. But it is killed in the name of getting revenge for you. But that dog meant more than just a dog. It was from your wife. So when John Wick, he doesn't just have a little bit of flaws. He has quite a bit of layers going on with him. And a lot that he's holding back. And a lot that he does not want to turn back into. He does not want to be this guy. Much as we all think he's badass and he's got great fight scenes. I love John Wick movies. But he doesn't even want to be himself. John Wick doesn't want to be himself. After the first one, he doesn't want to be himself. And then goes further. He doesn't want to be himself. John Wick didn't want to come back to this world. He didn't. So for you praising and thinking in his own Keanu Reeves way, John Wick is cool. He's awesome. Do I put him on a pedestal? As far as like badass fights and stuff go, and like, okay, this guy beat this guy, sure, yeah. But pedestal, as in at the end of the day, do I put him next to Captain America? Probably not, because Captain America, it's different what he represents or whatever. You know, Wolverine, I would want to be more in touch with that. John Wick, you know, all these guys have gone through stuff. Everybody has to go through something, but John Wick is someone that's stuck in something that he doesn't want to be in, and he is using his skills that he got, and he is using whatever he learned from his past, but he does not want it. And again, cool. People are still not afraid to be badasses. When they wrote that, they wrote it for, they want a kick-ass movie, but someone down the line was like, look, we can't have a guy just going around shooting people, getting shot in the chest, not getting hurt, and we have to make it as a Kevlar suit and all kinds of random stuff to make it work. But it's not the definition of a male hero. You get me? That's not a male hero. That's just an action hero. And he's not so much a male hero as in, I want to be him. He's so much that I understand his why he's the way he is. I get it, and we feel for him. I mean, by the first one, he's broken down. He's not even a man anymore. You can sit there and be like, oh, look at him. He's on the ground. He's not a man. He barely can walk anymore. No, the dude put himself through hell because what everything meant to him. And yes, it was because of a dog, but the dog had a lot more meaning behind it, and it dealt a lot more than the movie. Basically, it was a lot more. You could dig deeper into it, but again, does that mean Hollywood's afraid of these kind of movies? No, but they have to have something deep within it. We can't have just Boba Fett walking around hitting girls on their chin like, what up, girl, and swagging around. But you have to remember, he also got hit by a pole, screamed, and fell in a talking vagina, screaming vagina. So at the end of the day, you got to remember, Boba Fett even looks like a bitch at the end of the day when you thought he was really cool. So Boba Fett could be a bitch. That means other guys might be a little bitches, I guess, bitchy. But to be real, most of these heroes are fine. I don't think Hollywood's afraid. I hate backing up Hollywood. But writers, good writers out there, and there's a lot of them, they're not afraid to take risks. And I think they're not afraid to cross the line. If, oh, I'm going to make him toxic, he's going to be toxic. They know they're making him toxic. That guy's a jerk. He looks up girl skirts. I don't know. Not toxic. He's respectable. He does this. He does that. We get it. We know it. We understand it. We're not dumb. Males are not dumb, and other women, I hope, are not dumb, and I hope everybody's not dumb, and we all can see this. But what I think the argument saying that male heroes are being destroyed is just a false narrative. There are good examples. She brought up great examples, but when it comes down to it, they're not getting destroyed. They're still here, and we're getting some in the next coming years. We're getting some soon with an awesome Spider-Man movie that is not a destroyed hero. It's a person that you really look toward to want to be like, who's gone through hell and still kicking. And granted, he is a superhero. We all can't get bit by a spider, but you could put these people on a pedestal like Boba Fett, not a real person, but we could still sit there and be like, yeah, Spider-Man's kind of a cool dude. He's a male superhero. Hollywood took a risk on him, and it's working. And he's not some bitch. He's not some sucker. He's not weak. He's strong. But Boba Fett's a bitch. He got hit by a pole and then fell into a vagina. Think about that. So at the end of the day, ask yourself, are we losing male heroes? Or are people just looking way too much into things to have a discussion about it? Because far as all the examples, having someone with you makes you weaker. Having this, thinking like this makes you weaker. You need to have girls around you. You need to have swag. You need to have a car. It just sounds like you want the guy from Fast and the Furious. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be a Spider-Man than a Dom Toretto. That's just me. You guys let me know. Do you want to be a Spider-Man? You want to be Dom Toretto? You pick.